Hi, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Ariana, and as a Rani, I give human design readings and initiations. I'm a human design analyst and a living your design guide. I've been studying human design since 2009. I've been experimenting with it in every direction. It has taken big ups and downs through my life, and now I'm here and I have a lot of insights and experiences to share that have come to me along the way. One thing that is very interesting to me that human design tells us is the mutation that is currently happening. So this started around 1781. That's when the mutation was initiated. That's when it started taking a hold of people that were being born from that moment on. And it's going to be completed around 2027. From that moment on, people are going to start to be born with the complete mutation in their DNA, which means they are going to be differently functioning human beings. And then it's still going to take a long time for the mutation to completely, take over or take a hold of our species, because for a long time we're going to be a species in transition. So we're going to be humans that function one way, and there's going to be humans that function a different way. And that's already been the case ever since that mutation started taking a hold of us. We have started experiencing life differently. We've started experiencing emotions differently. And once it is fully complete, then it will be fully formed. But until then, we are kind of experiencing these partial mutations where we experience it to a certain degree, but the evolution isn't quite complete. So we don't really know what to do with it yet. And a really big part of it as well is that our societal structure is made to accommodate one way of being human. And there are many, many different ways of being human that don't necessarily fit into the societal structure. That is true regardless of whether we are changing either way. Our societal structure isn't made to allow individuality to flourish. It is made to put us all in one specific framework. But the more that we are changing, the more we are kind of finding the tools to resist that structure. We are kind of finding our own emotional strength or emotional capacity to be able to deal with what it means to try and be made into something that we are not. And that's what has been empowered in humans more and more in the past few centuries. And that's what we're also now seeing climax in a way, because around 2027, that's really when the mutation takes hold. That's really when we feel that change happening. So right now we are in the middle of the storm, in the eye of the storm, you could say, and we are really feeling what that mutation is doing to us and what it is doing for us, and how complicated it is to have all these old ways of functioning and new ways of functioning meet one another in ourselves, in our communities, in our society, in the entirety of our civilization. So there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of chaos. And that's kind of what I wanted to go into in this series of videos that I'm doing about this mutation, to kind of make sense of what exactly is going on and what it means for us specifically. So the way this mutation works is that it is kind of a domino effect. There are certain things that change about our human design, and all those things are related to other parts. Like, there's nothing in the human design chart that stands alone. Everything is connected to one another. So in the same way, this mutation happens in one place, but then there's a domino effect that happens because everything that is connected to that one gate, which is gate 55, gate 55 mutates, but then everything that is related to gate 55 also experiences a mutation. So that means that this mutation takes place in a number of stages. Now, in my previous video, I talked about stage 1, which is that the emotional wave are the extreme emotional states of being that we move through. Those are going to be neutralized in the sense that we don't visit the extremes of emotions as intensely anymore in the future. For now, we are definitely experiencing those extremes, and we are definitely experiencing the chaos and confusion that comes with it. But a part of that is that it is going to start to become neutralized. That is the first stage of the mutation. The next stage comes kind of as a result of that, as a consequence of that. And that is stage 2, which is about how we relate. And because the emotional wave is becoming neutralized, more of our emotional experience is going to be neutralized in the sense that we are more present and aware of it rather than getting swept away by it. And this stage 2 is defined by the calming of desire. So now we experience desire as this hunger within us, something that is really pulling at us to go towards the things that we so desire to experience. And that desire is going to calm down in the sense that we will no longer desire to have these experiences, to have food, to have sex, to have all these experiences of being human. We're not going to have them from this place of desire and hunger. We're going to have them and experience them in a different way. What that is going to be, we can of course not know, because we still have that desire within us. We still move from that desire. But those people who are going to start being born from 2027, they're going to have much less desire to go after those things. It doesn't mean that they don't eat or they don't have sex or they don't experience anything. It just means that they do it in a different way and from a different place. They will have different motivations when it comes to fulfilling those aspects of being human. They will go into those experiences from a different place within them than from where we are used to. We just feel that desire, like, oh, I'm so excited to get into that. That excitement really moves us, and it sets us on fire, and that excitement moves us to move towards that thing that we desire. For them, it's going to be much more neutralized. It's going to just be a simple recognition of, yes, that is something that is good for me, or that is something that is a part of the experience that I feel matches what I'm here to do in this world. It's not going to be from this burning desire. It's just going to be a much more neutral realization, a more neutral recognition of, yes, this feels good to me. And this part of the mutation means that we are going to redefine what it is to be human. You know, we define our life experiences based on how exciting they were. You know, we traveled far, or we went to great lengths to accomplish something. We felt a desire, we went after it, and we accomplished it. And that's how we experience success. And a lot of our life stories are defined by drama, by challenges that we faced, by things going wrong or things going badly, because we went out there, we went after an adventure, and it went wrong or it didn't go as we planned. And then we faced the challenge and we learned from it and we pushed through it and we came out the other end victorious. And that's how we define our life story. It is the hero's journey. It's a classic narrative tool that also applies to our own life. So that hero's journey won't be as significant anymore because our life won't be given meaning based on the adventures that we have. There won't be this strong desire to experience drama, to go through big things and overcome them. There will be much more of a grounded sense. And it, of course, has to do with the emotional wave. Now we experience the emotional wave and we let it move through us, and we get dragged along with it. And we feel excitement about the highs, and we feel deep about the lows. And that is how we live our story. That's how we experience our life. But when that wave is more neutralized, it is not about reaching those highs and those lows. It is more about, okay, I am present in it all. I am aware of it all. And it doesn't have to be more than what it is. There's much more settling in life is good as it is. I don't have to reach those highs and those lows. I don't have to have that drama. I don't have to go on an adventure to have a good life. I can just be here in this life and be satisfied with that exactly as it is. And that is difficult for us to imagine, to give meaning to life, not from what we experience, what we adventure out onto, but from just what it is, the simpleness of life. And at the same time, I imagine that it also makes a lot of sense to a part of us. I know it makes a lot of sense to a part of me. My 20s were defined by all these great adventures I went on to. The early parts of my 20s, I traveled a lot. I was in a lot of places. The second part of my 20s, I went on a lot of other different kinds of adventures, big emotional roller coasters that I went through, which I learned so much from. Like, I learned so much in my 20s. But now that I am out of that roller coaster, now that I passed 30, and I'm just like, okay, I just need to process everything that I learned there. I just need to make sure that I get all the lessons out of those experiences. And I feel this something settling in me where it's like, I don't have to go anywhere anymore. I don't need the drama. I don't need the experience. I don't need the hardship that comes with it. I can just be here and give meaning to my life right here in this place. And I can rest in the emotions that I've already experienced, the lessons that I get to learn from them, and let that be the emotional roller coaster that I go through, which the more time I give it, the more neutral the roller coaster comes. First it was extreme highs and lows. Now it becomes much less dramatic, much less extreme. So was interesting for me to learn that this is a part of the mutation, that this settling into a more neutral life experience is something that humans will feel more of in the future. We will be less inclined to go out there and learn our lessons through these extreme experiences, but instead be much more settled and not have to go out on an adventure in order to learn a lesson. We can also learn a lesson by just having an experience in the micro, just in the small space of our home and our community. We can have the experiences there, learn those lessons without traveling far or going to great lengths. And that was very interesting for me because I experience both. And I imagine and have heard and seen that in people that I know, that more of our generation is experiencing this. It's also, of course, just a part of life where when you come in your 30s, you settle down, you start to live a different kind of life. But in the same way, our generation had the most freedom than any generation has ever had to travel, to experience things. And it's interesting to me to see a lot of people, after having all those experiences and all that freedom, come to a point where it's like, okay, now I want to use my freedom for something else. Now I choose not to venture out any longer. I choose to venture it within. I choose to take that emotional journey and experience it within myself on the inside. In that, I can see that this mutation is already playing out in us. And it's not necessarily fully formed yet. It is still both. It's a little bit of the old, it's a little bit of the new that is alive within us. But we are definitely living out the new way of being human that is going to take hold when that mutation completes. We are already experimenting with it. We are already figuring out, what is it like? What does it mean to be human in this new way? And I often call that to be a pioneer, because we are pioneering a new way of being human within a world that doesn't necessarily understand yet that new way of being human. We are finding our way of being human, our individual experience, which is a part new, part old. And we are finding that and making sense of it, giving it space, using our freedom to make choices for ourselves that make sense according to what we feel to be true. And a lot of manuals and guidelines from the outside don't necessarily apply to that individual experience and to that individual truth as we experience it. So that's why we are pioneering. We are kind of moving into uncharted territory. We are doing something that hasn't been done before. We are experiencing life in a way that it hasn't been experienced before. And fortunately, we have received an awareness and a wisdom along with it to make sure that we are able to make those decisions for ourselves, and that we are able to recognize what is good for us, what makes sense for us. And that way we are able to take on this, maybe the greatest adventure. Paradoxically, this is such an adventure to not go out on as many adventures, or to experience our adventures in a different way. Well, if this is something that you're experiencing as well, if there's anything about this that you recognize, or if you don't recognize this, if you feel like, no, actually I want to go on more adventures, I want to definitely go out there and experience as much as I possibly can, then I would love to hear from you, and I would love to have a dialogue about this. So let me know, leave a comment, send me a message. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about, whether human design or something in another realm that I touched upon, I would love to hear from you. And either way, I hope to see you in the next video.